Has concluded and we're now 9 days out from the Australian Grand Prix. So what can we expect based on the testing results? Well, according to most, the outcome of testing sheds little light on what the car's true potential is. According to Formula One's Julian Palmer, there is an estimated 7 seconds of variables in play during testing, from fuel load to engine modes to driver ability and even day-to-day track conditions. This means that the outcome of testing holds little water. The only people who really know what the car's level of performance is are the teams themselves. So if the facts from testing are unusable, then maybe the history is. I have reviewed the analytical data from the 2018 and 2019 seasons to try and conjure up an accurate prediction to the team's actual performance for 2020. I have broken the data down into 3 questions. What will be the qualifying results for the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix? What will be the outcome of the Constructors Championship? And what will racing in 2020 look like? I'm mainly going to focus on Ferrari versus Mercedes, but the data will show for all teams. First, let's look at the predictions for the 2020 Spanish Grand Prix qualifying. To start, we will look at the performance from the 2018 testing times versus the 2018 qualifying times. In 2018, the fastest team in testing was Ferrari, with a time of 1 minute 17.182, which is more than a second faster than that of Mercedes, with their fastest time being 1 minute 18.4. Now, if you remember testing from that year, it was very cold, the track even saw snow at one point. This would have played into much slower lap times. Whereas in qualifying for 2018, Mercedes was on pole with a time of 1 minute 16.173, besting Ferrari's Q3 lap of 1 minute 16.305. Moving to 2019 testing, Ferrari once again held the fastest lap with a 1 minute 16.221, besting Mercedes only by 3 1/1000ths of a second. In qualifying, Ferrari posted a slower lap time than that of their testing, whereas Mercedes knocked more than 8/10ths off their best lap from preseason testing, posting a lap time of 1 minute 15.406. So what does this tell us? Well, I've compared each team's lap times from preseason testing against that of their qualifying times from the 2018 and 2019 seasons. This has given me a percent gain and a percent loss for each team. I've taken the percent average from the 2 years and applied it to their fastest preseason testing lap for 2020. Using this, it's given me a prediction for what the qualifying times will be for each team in 2020. Now, we need to note track conditions, driver ability, and other events during the season will have an impact on this, but we'll see just how accurate this is come the race weekend. Based on the results, I have Mercedes posting the fastest lap at a 1 minute 14.92. Red Bull in second with a best lap of 1 minute 16.240, and Ferrari as the third team in line with a time of 1 minute 16.40. A notable mention is that Racing Point and Haas will be close to the front of the pack with a fast lap just a few tenths off of Ferrari's best. On to the second question. Who will win the 2020 Constructors Championship? This I'm basing on the correlation between total laps completed in preseason testing versus the team's finishing place in the Constructors Championship. Based on the data, one thing has been consistent. The top 2 teams that completed the most laps in testing finished 1-2 in the Constructors Championship for that year. Both years being Mercedes and Ferrari, with Mercedes completing the most laps and Ferrari a close second. Now, what I found interesting was I thought the opposite would be true for the last place team. But in 2018, McLaren completed the least amount of laps in testing and still finished 6th in the Constructors Championship, while Williams completed the 4th most laps in 2018 and still finished last in the Constructors Championship. Another cool note that I noticed was that Red Bull completes very few laps when compared to Mercedes and Ferrari, but they have been able to finish 3rd in the championship the past 2 years. So what does that say for the 2020 season? The only clear answer is that Mercedes and Ferrari will be battling for the Constructors Championship, this being based only on the data. Some may have a different opinion based on what they've seen in testing, but for argument's sake, I'm only going to focus on what the data is telling me. On to the last question, what will racing in the 2020 season look like? Based on the lap times and the amount of laps completed in testing this year, the correlation between the two is much tighter than it has been from the past 2 seasons. This means we're most likely in for much closer racing and a much more exciting season. The data also shows that Mercedes might have a repeat of their 2014 season and be in a league of their own, as their predicted race pace is about a second faster than that of their closest competitor. One exciting note is that Racing Point and Haas are showing to be the fastest of the midfield and might be in a position to battle Red Bull and Ferrari. This is, of course, if Haas is able to hold the same race pace as what is being predicted to that of their qualifying pace.